Hi, I'm Alyah Kanso. I'm the founder of Carry On Consulting. I'm based in Berkeley, California, and I'm here to talk about Pass the Plate, which is a food recovery program that I launched while I was the sustainability manager at Chase Center from 2022 to 2025. The inspiration for Pass the Plate really started before I even got to Chase Center. It was work that I was doing at a previous role, and I knew that it was one of the first programs that I wanted to start or at least investigate when I got to Chase Center. So I started asking questions, what's actually happening to all of this food? And I found out that perfectly edible food was going straight into our compost bins, not donated, just thrown away. Meanwhile, compost happens to be also one of the most expensive waste streams to haul, and I knew that I could use that as leverage later down the line. It bothered me, honestly. I'm like, there are hungry people in our neighborhood, in our backyard, and we have thousands of pounds of perfectly edible food that we are just dumping. And to be honest, this isn't unique to Chase Center. I've talked to a number of colleagues across the sports and entertainment industry who have faced or are facing the exact same thing. There are thousands of venues across the country, the world, that are serving food to large crowds. Think about museums and hospitals and airports that are just have no real plan for what is happening to the food surplus that they have in their buildings. The first thing I did was tell my supervisor. I was so new, and she was so pivotal in helping not only connect me to the right people, but open doors to the people at the top. I hate to say it, but title really mattered, and having her, remove the barriers to access to some of these folks was really, really helpful. I went straight to the head chef of Chase Center's food and beverage program, Bon Appetit, to really understand what was already happening. And the honest answer was practically nothing. And from there, I really hit three main obstacles. There was no budget, there was no space, and there was no operational process. So I had to get creative. We converted an underutilized storage closet that was both near the kitchens and near the loading dock into our food recovery hub. I also leaned and learned about Bon Appetit and Compass Group's existing sustainability commitments so that I could secure stakeholder buy-in from these groups. I secured a grant from the city of San Francisco to help this proof of concept. I built a cost-benefit analysis showcasing that this was not just a profit center, but it could also be a very high reputational program. And I eventually got DoorDash to fund it as part of their multi-year partnership with us. All this said, from idea to operational program, it still took almost 2 years. It really did start as, we have food waste, let's donate it. But obviously, the more that I dug in, the more that I realized that the problem was really about systems, or I guess the lack of them. I ended up going department by department to solve each piece of this very complicated puzzle. And I also leaned on policy tools that I didn't originally plan to use, right? So California's SB 1383 became the stick, right? It actually mandates food recovery for large food generators. And then I used the Good Samaritan laws and the potential tax deductions as the carrots. So this problem ended up becoming more specific, and honestly, that made it more solvable. We're considered a large food generator. We have laws to protect us, both at the federal and at the state level. And there are potential tax deductions. And like I mentioned before, this can be a profit center, and we even identified a partner to help us fund this. The hardest part of this entire process was that every time I solved one problem, a new one or two or three appeared. And it felt like I was not making any progress. And I'd take one step forward, and it felt like I was taking 3 steps back. The high that I will never forget involves, ironically, the head chef who actually slowed this whole process down significantly. A colleague told me later on that she was on an internal call with Compass Group, their parent company, boasting about the food recovery program. And to me, that told me that we had not just changed the operations, but we had actually changed the culture. And I think another high for me was that this program went public. Most operational programs that happen never see the light of day. They're not public facing usually. But this one, was. We got to share this program with the over 1 million in-person fans that came to visit Chase Center every day. And it was seen by the hundreds of thousands of people that followed us on social media. And at that point, I realized that this was bigger than any one person, and it made everything worth it. I'm relatively new to work on climate. I only recently started participating in the Bay Area Food Systems channel, but what I've really found is a space where people already speak this language. I didn't have to explain the importance of food recovery, and it was really, like a common denominator that, food systems and climate are connected. And that was really important to me, to be able to just be in a space where we're all speaking the same language. If I had any last words for somebody who is interested in starting a food recovery program, I guess there's a few things that I wish somebody had told me. This will probably take longer than you think, and that is okay. You will also probably hear more no's than you will hear yeses, at least in the beginning, and that is okay. There is nothing wrong with pausing, building more support around this idea, and coming back to it. That is okay. If you can get executive buy-in early, do it, because the higher up you go, the harder it is to kill and the more support you will get. And I guess the last thing I would say is, if you can, make it public. Once your customers, your fans, your partners know about this program, it takes on a life of its own, and it becomes a lot harder to ignore and even harder to shut down. If any of you are interested in learning more about this program, starting one of your own, or want a space to vent about how hard it was for you to start yours, my inbox is open. Feel free to send me a message on Slack or on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to chat more about this with you. Thanks.